Dan Blackwell, thanks for joining us on our podcast.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We appreciate you joining us in the middle of everything that's going on with the coronavirus and being quarantined. And first and foremost, just want to ask, how you're doing, how your family is.
We're good. We're all hunkered down, hanging in there. We're all happy and healthy and getting through it. Happy as we can be, under the circumstances. So all good. How's things?
Awesome. We're doing well. We are in the home a lot, a little stir crazy, surfaces, it seems like on a daily basis, but positive energy. We're keeping in touch with friends and family and making sure we can help in any way. And at the end of the day, there's still a lot to be grateful for. And we're trying to stay in that space as much as possible.
Absolutely.
So before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and where you're from and how you got into the business of multifamily properties.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in real estate since 2004. I'm 37 and I'm from North Carolina, and I sold land for a home developer in North Carolina for 5 years. And then around 2008-ish, that ended, and it ended in a big way. I was in a small rural town in North Carolina and said, well, the investors that are riding through this the best are receiving cash flow on a monthly basis, and they're not owning land that's not income producing. So I got some guidance from some older, mentors, and they were just like, look, you need to get into a bigger market. You need to go for it. And Southern California was a place I could see myself living. And home ownership is reality. It's not attainable for everybody. And there's a lot of people that have to rent. So there's a business, a rental business that's sustainable here. So I came out in 2008, my Tahoe, drove across country and went to work. Didn't know anybody in California, didn't know any markets. I was calling it Disney World, not Disneyland. I mean, I'm an East Coaster. I was kind of like brand new. And that was 2008. And I specialize in the sale of apartment buildings in Orange County. I started just in Anaheim. That was the market I started in. And I learned it and connected with every investor that I could there, helped them out, and grew from there into Orange County. And now our team is a total of 14 investment professionals. We're at CBRE. We really focus on the private investor. We're doing deals anywhere from $2-3 million to up to 20-30 million. And we just kind of work that entire space. And we've been having some fun, but we are reminded now with the new market that we're in, and we'll get into that, but it kind of reminds me back to when I first started in a way. So anyways, that's a little bit on me and my backstory.
Awesome. That's a pretty special time to look back on and baptism by fire, really.
Yeah.
Mark and I both came to Orange County from out of the area and started in real estate, similar to your situation, not knowing anybody, not growing up here, really no connections, and everything that we've built, as I'm sure similar for yourself, we've really had to create ourselves. And there's definitely a certain level of appreciation for that looking back, and, a responsibility to continue to grow what we've started.
You guys done a great job. You got a good brand, and just keep going. We got to keep going. So all you can do.
We love the relationship we've established with you, and recognize that you do great work, and we have several clients who have worked with you in the past, and they've always had nothing but great things to say. So again, we're grateful to have you on and share a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I appreciate it.
You're welcome. What's going on in your business, right now?
Right now, as of today, April 10th, I believe, what was on everybody's mind was rent collections. I think that's the biggest thing. Once kind of COVID became a pandemic and the stay-at-home order was issued, everybody's like, geez, first health and safety, then a lot of landlords are like, okay, a lot of my tenants are out of work, and am I, going to collect rent? So what was on every apartment building owner's mind was, what's the percentage of collections? So we actually did a survey, put out a video yesterday. We sampled 1,500 units, ranging from a total of 15 investors, and some of those investors were mom and pop investors that own 5 to 10 units, maybe here in Costa Mesa or Anaheim, Fullerton, all the way up to the professional operators that own hundreds of apartment units, really to give everybody like a broad scale of what's going on in the month of April. And we just got those results. It was 92% of tenants that paid their rent in full thus far in April. And I think a lot of people were a little pleasantly surprised by that. I think they were thinking that, collections could be a lot lower, and there was some concern with that. So overall, there's some good news. Now on everybody's mind is the month of May, and that sort of thing. But I think it's just totally around collections and really just getting through this, surviving through it. And then with the pandemic, interest rates have been volatile. I know you know that, just being on your side of things, but multifamily lenders are underwriting with a higher vacancy rate. They've jumped rates up. They're not 3.5% interest rates anymore. They're 4.5 plus or minus percent. You got some banks that are on the sidelines. So it's creating another kind of, challenge with getting deals done right now. So
it's interesting, that statistic you said for April. That's much higher than I would have guessed. And
yeah.
I think I saw on Instagram another agent, a residential agent in Compass, post that nationally there was a statistic of 69% of tenants paid some portion of their rent. It wasn't even full rent between April 1st and 5th. And that was in relation to last March or last April, similar payment. And that was like at 82%. So it seems like our numbers are performing better than at least that.
Yeah, I saw that article. I'd like to really look at that data, to be honest with you, because sure, we're testing Southern California, and those collections were great, but I'd be a little surprised if that, I don't know about that information. I'm not too sure. So,
okay, got it. No, appreciate it. We got a challenge.
Yeah.
Would the number one concern for multifamily property owners be their rental income right now? Is that number one all the time?
Yes, more so now than ever, but absolutely, it's always the case. The reason why, we buy multifamily properties is for the cash flow. Everything else is a second or a third: appreciation, write-off, all that stuff, principal reduction. That's not as important as cash flow. So everybody's just dropping non-essential renovations. They're working with their tenants. I don't see nobody's charging late fees. Everybody's working with their tenants. That's more than anything. And now there is a moratorium on evictions, but I just don't see a lot of landlords wanting to do that anyways. It's just a lot of people showing compassion right now and kind of coming together to get through it.
That's great. That's great. And what we're seeing on the residential side is several banks allowing deferment of mortgage payments. Any feedback on the investment side?
There's that too. And the market's changing like almost on like a daily basis, right? So it's really good that we're on here doing this and sharing information. But as it sits now, I think a lot of multifamily landlords have already had a certain level of reserves before they can even obtain these loans. And people have their reserves to kind of keep things going, but there has been a lot of people reaching out to their banks to find out what type of options do they have. And that's kind of caused some banks to just be even more conservative about lending right now, just with the amount of inbound that they've had. But there's programs we've heard where some banks have allowed investors to, as an option. Some people are just reaching out, hey, look, if it gets worse, like I need to know there is an option. I don't want to take advantage of it now, but can I get maybe in 3 to 6 months? Who knows how long this is going to go on? So some of those banks are dropping the principal payment and it's just interest only for up to 3 to 6 months. I don't think a lot of people want to do forbearance. If they come back and try to get a loan down the road, I think the banks, that's going to be noted, and it might penalize you down the road. So.
Got it. And one thing I heard we have a few clients that own multifamilies, and one family, and this was probably 3 weeks ago, they were proactively sending out letters offering incentives for tenants who were paying in full to be proactive, because what they were saying was, hey, if we're not offering an incentive and somebody can pay, they may, lean towards, well, I might not make my payment because other people are not. So I thought that was a pretty clever, way to work together. And, for people that may not have jobs that are being directly affected yet, a way for them to still benefit, and circle back to your comment about the compassion aspect, is, the sense that we're all in this together.
No, absolutely. When we completed the survey that we just wrapped up yesterday, we also surveyed owners who offered concessions or rent deferment plans. And 40% of landlords offered concessions or payment plans. So some of those concessions looked like a $50, off the rent if you paid your rent in full for the month. Also, some landlords bill back for water and gas usage, and some of those landlords waive those fees if a tenant paid in full for the month. So that's going on too, for sure.
That's great, because there is a sense, I think, out there that landlords are these ultra wealthy, twisting their mustache and just collecting money unfairly. And I know you have a lot of clients. We have a lot of clients who have investment properties, and it's just not the case in most situations. After taxes and carrying costs and upkeep of the property, a lot of these people are using that money to simply live.
Absolutely. There's a lot of investors that we work with that live on the cash flow. They don't have, crazy lifestyles. They're putting money back into the properties, keeping them up. And, it's a big potential lifestyle change for them if there's a, reduction in rent collections, for sure.
I was just on the phone yesterday with a client, and they own a duplex in Dana Point. And one of the tenants just moved out, and, they're vacant, and she didn't want to relist the property until this passes. And she fell into that category of, I'm not concerned right now, but in 3 months, this may be a bigger issue. For them, that's a source of income for their retirement, to augment their Social Security. And, those are the types of stories that are, happening across the board in Orange County and across the country.
I think multifamily, every asset class is going to get challenged on this, and we're already seeing that, but I think we're going to weather it okay. I think we're going to be okay. I'm optimistic about that. Retail has been, there's other product types that have really gotten hit, and that's been tough to see, but people need a place to live. And, we just got to find that, even if you got to adjust your rents to, lease up units. You just got to, I think, move with speed in this market. And we've also consulted with tenants, on leasing up some units right now. The leasing activity has actually been relatively strong. So that's been a good thing.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So you mentioned being optimistic about everything that's going on. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but how do you see this COVID situation playing out? And this is just today's view, it can change.
I think it's tough. It's tough to say. We'll probably be in some big challenges in the next, 30, 45 days, just with the health and safety aspect of everything. But once that dissipates and we get back to normal, I'm not too sure it's going to be like some V-shaped correction. There's been talk about that. I don't know if there's as much talk anymore. I stopped watching the news, honestly, but I think it's going to be maybe a U or a wide U, if you will. But I think at least with my side of things on the multifamily side, there's a moratorium on evictions, and that is based off of the until the state of emergency is lifted from California. Once that's lifted, then the 90 days starts ticking. So there's no really transparency at this point. Certainly, we're in the middle of this, on when that's going to get back to a stabilized level and then lifted. We could go back to work, and then that's still not lifted. So it could be certainly the entire year of 2020 where those moratoriums are. And I just think you want to help the people that need help, but there could be some concern about just people taking advantage of that. I think a lot of landlords are concerned about that. But I'm optimistic because with crisis, there's opportunity. Nobody saw this coming, so I don't think everybody was like as prepared in a cash position to just like jump on opportunities. But I'm optimistic. I think there's going to be some phenomenal, opportunities out there. I don't know about how many, because I think we'll get through this. Okay. I'm optimistic on fundamentals. We'll get through it. It's not going to be pretty. But I don't think this is going to be as bad as, we all thought. But I'm optimistic on just getting through it. And then usually multifamily is the first to recover out of any type of, recession. And I'm just bullish on long-term Orange County, LA County, multifamily. So if somebody's in a position to acquire property in the next 3 to 6 months, I think there's going to be some good things to look at for sure.
That's good to hear. And it sounds like to a degree, what we're experiencing in residential is, weathering the storm right now, hunkering down, getting through this to see, the other side. Now, you mentioned multifamilies are the first to recover in recessions. Is that because of the rental demand that's typically associated with the economy being in that position?
Yeah, jobs. When jobs come back, household formation comes back. There's going to be a level of pent up demand, on multifamily and single family. And I just think that that'll show up in rents, and occupancies will, be very, very strong. And jobs are the biggest thing, right? Everybody's got to get back to work, and then that'll kind of follow through. Yeah.
Awesome. So you mentioned potentially having opportunity in the next 3 to 6 months for purchasing property. How would you suggest someone get started in multifamily investing? For me, it sounds like, I need a big chunk of money. It's going to be something that needs to be managed. Where does somebody who doesn't have a lot of confidence or understanding of that market, where should they start? How should they start?
Yeah, I would say for the average person, what I would do is I'd buy a 2 to 4 unit and live in one of the units. I never did that. I wanted to do that. I looked for a while, but I ended up going the route where I threw, some pieces into like a guy was running a deal, syndicator, and I threw in 25 grand or 50 grand into their deal and got to learn while I focused on my brokerage business. I was a little worried about getting too far off track. I wanted to stay focused on, helping my clients and staying focused on. But you can go one or two ways, So I put in little pieces here and there in properties, and I was able. So that's one way, and you can review the P&Ls and learn how these properties operate, and maybe the main owner can mentor you a little bit, and then maybe you can save up a little bit and then go into something on your own. Or if you don't have access to something like that, I would go into owner occupying a 2 to 4 unit property. You're going to get the leverage. You're going to really learn firsthand. And if it's your property and this rebounds, when it rebounds, you're going to capture all of that. So I would probably lean towards suggesting that, even if it's 2 units, 3 units, that's perfect. That's what I would do.
Awesome. And it seems like, Mark and I work particularly Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, Corona Del Mar, and within those markets, Costa Mesa is going to be the most available as far as price points are concerned. Getting out throughout of Orange County, can you buy 2 units for under $1 million, under 750?
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's folks that are up in Long Beach that are buying, 2 units. The pricings, there's some deals there. Up the 605 corridor, Whittier, Downey. I mean, those are some prime markets. It just depends. But yeah, I'm in Costa Mesa. I live in Costa Mesa. I have some doors in Costa Mesa. So that's actually where I'm filming right now. I'm inside one of the units.
Nice.
But I'm a big believer in doing that. You definitely can get in something sub $1 million. And I think you only need to put a 3 to 5% down if you're owner occupying it, right? Do you guys know the financing structures on those?
You can. There are limits to the amount of the loan amount that you can acquire, but
Okay.
yeah, certainly it's well within possibility.
But then you got to pay PMI, right? If you're under.
Correct.
Is that that's the issue, challenge? You got to pay a little bit more.
But from what I've looked, even in those scenarios, to the value of that to get in and work and get started, there is some justification for getting started versus waiting to.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially in times like now where, like these, where who knows, in a couple months, maybe the right property comes up at the right price and you can get in. And then the goal is just to get your arms around it and then eventually refinance out and get into out of the PMI. You'll be happy. That's definitely a good move.
And now the other thing you mentioned, as far as putting in $25,000 into a property and being an investor essentially in the property, how do you find out about those opportunities?
Well, for me, it was a little different because I was brokering some opportunities to where maybe something came up on the market and investor, I found, 20 units that they could buy, let's say in Costa Mesa, and there was an opportunity they would allow me to co-invest with them. Or maybe it's just not me. Maybe they do co-invest through friends and family. So there's a lot of folks doing that. And maybe I was on kind of like the inside with some of those where they were like, hey, they ran it to me. If I wasn't in the real estate business, maybe I wouldn't have those. So, but it was good. I always made sure that, that was something that was always disclosed, first and foremost, but it was a great little opportunity to ride alongside and not really have a whole lot of risk.
That's awesome. And Mark and I have spoken with friends who are not in the real estate business, and I've discussed with plenty of people, possibly purchasing multifamily and having everyone put in some cash and getting started that way and just allow that to grow over time. So, whether somebody who's in the real estate field, somebody you trust, or even if it's just an agent that you've worked with in the past, maybe a good place to start that conversation if you don't want to go the route of purchasing a property for yourself.
Exactly. I probably would vet out buying the 2 to 4 yourself first. And if you ruled that out, then I would look to maybe find an opportunity and co-invest with some people.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dan, what is the cap rate?
What's a cap rate? Let's look at it like this, like 4% cap rate, $1 million deal. Let's say we pay cash for the property. Let's say we pay $1 million cash for $1 million deal. And it's a 4 cap, the return would be 4%. So that's the way you look at it. If it's a 5 cap, it'd be 5%. 6% if you paid cash for it. That'd be the return. Then when you take on debt, that debt could work for you and increase your rate of return, or it could actually decrease it. If you're borrowing higher than the cap rate, then that would be negative leverage. Or if you borrow less than the cap rate, that would be positive leverage, which could enhance your return. But that's like a quick way that kind of sticks, at least, for in a novice investor. Okay, if I pay cash, that'd be my return. It's basically the net operating income divided by the purchase price. But you got to factor in expenses. And, a lot of the times those expenses, different brokers use different expense levels. And that's why when you're looking at like a 2 to 4 unit, I don't get all caught up in the cap rate, because you got to look at who underwrote it, or how it was underwritten. Some folks don't underwrite with the new property taxes based on the asking price of the property. And they're showing like a 7 cap, and then you plug in the new expenses and it's a 3 cap. So if that makes sense, that's just one metric to underwrite a deal. And it's just not there's not one metric to analyze a stock. There's not one metric that analyzes real estate either. So
I ask because on our side of the business, when we work with investors looking at single family residences or condos, it's the number one question. And it seems like most investors hang their hat on cap rate. And to your point, taking into account expenses, if you're comparing a cap rate for a property that has just been remodeled, has a new roof, has very little expenses in the next 5 or 10 years versus a property with a slightly higher cap rate and a whole mess of potential expenses, to your point, it's really important to calculate each property based on the full picture.
100%. Cap rates, if let's say we're buying in Costa Mesa and the cap rate's 3.5% to 4%. And then if we go out to the Inland Empire, we shouldn't be buying a property at a 3.5% or 4% cap rate unless the rents are way below the market, so the cap rate should be higher in those markets. But I think now with the COVID, change in the marketplace, it's more important to really underwrite the deals based on how they're performing currently and not looking at the upside as much. I mean, there's been a lot of times where, we brokered or purchased properties where the cap rate was a 2, but we were able to get it to a 5, or 5.5% cap rate. And so we could get to that value. We could tap into that. But given you're not doing that right now, under what's going on, it's hard to get people to renovate properties right now. If they're occupied units, you're not, it's going to be challenging to get into units and turn those units, just with the health and safety factor. And then the rent control, we can only raise rent so much, 5% plus CPI. So I think the value add space is being challenged right now. So if you're looking at buying something, you want to make sure that the deal makes sense on its current numbers. And if it does, and you can get to a better number down the road, then great.
It's a bonus
for that in a longer period of time to get to that versus, 9 months or 12 months, like we were doing these deals. Yeah.
Got it. So on your website, Dan, you mentioned, taking care of your clients, protecting their interests, and helping them grow and retain wealth. So next question's, geared around what are the biggest benefits to owning multifamily properties?
Financial freedom, being in control, lifestyle. I mean, those are the reasons why people own real estate. They want to, a lot of people have made a tremendous amount of money owning real estate. Some of the investors that we work with, one client that we worked with was a basketball coach and would start with 2 to 4 unit deals in El Segundo, and then got some friends and family together and and then boom, boom, boom. And he's made an absolute fortune buying properties, and he's not a basketball coach anymore. He's retired. And, it's all about cash flow. It's all about building wealth. I think a lot of people kind of get hung up on appreciation or pride of ownership, and those are nice, but they're not that nice right now. You need cash flow. The survival of any business is cash flow. And I think you buy that and you hunker down the hard times. And when you get through it, you know, you can replace your income and, you know, what you do day to day and make it a full-time business. We've seen that over and over again. And there's more people that have made their wealth through real estate than, you know, I think anything else. So
yeah, trying to think about, you know, any other vehicle that can produce this type of income and tax benefits is challenging at best. And it's
yeah,
something they can do, you know, really even, you know, basketball coach, somebody with a lower income, you know, can get started and allow time to take care of the rest.
absolutely. It's a long game. You know, you just got to get in it and get some doors and learn and go for it. But yeah.
What's one thing that newcomers to multifamily investing should be cautious of or aware of before making a commitment?
I think for me, and again, this is all based on today, right? Like with the changes within the market. I think the biggest thing right now is like, if you're buying, just make sure you got some reserves. You know, debt, you know, can be a good thing, and sometimes it can be a bad thing, right? But I think it just depends on your risk tolerance. You know, some investors, if you're going into something new, it'd be nice to have a little extra cushion, especially this is going to be a learning experience, you know, going into something new, and there's going to be everybody's budget's always over budget, and there's always you're learning through the process. Oh, I didn't know it would cost that much, or I didn't anticipate the roof to, you know, start leaking or whatever. I think just having some good reserves, a lot of people can sleep at night with that and get through it, you know? So that'd be the biggest thing that I'd recommend right now.
How many months reserves would you personally like to have on your properties?
I would say 6 months, you know, minimum. I think a lot of banks look at 6 months. It's hard to like, I'd love to say 12 months, but then it's like, well, it's so hard to get in, you know, you're trying to save up for all of this. And, you know, the first time buying or the first few deals, you're not flush, you know, you're just getting started. So I'd say 6 is a good benchmark. And then if a tenant doesn't pay, or, you know, that roof does blow up on you, you know, you're not, and start leaking, you know, you're not freaking out too much. Yeah.
Awesome. Last
Yeah.
question regarding people who are new to multifamily investing. How important is owning real estate in close proximity to where you live?
I think it's everything, especially when you're getting started. You know, one of the things that I love is just being on the phone, talking with investors, and, you know, learning from them too. Like they're learning on what's going on in the current market, what kind of changes, what's happening, what's up with sales, this and that. But then I'm also able to learn from them. And a lot of them have said, just be within a 45-minute from your properties. You know, there's some folks that have done that and done extremely well. But back to when I first started in 2008, when I was on the phones, 2008, 2009, not a lot of deals were going down. I don't think I did hardly any deals at all. But I remember talking with so many investors at that time that went out to Phoenix, that went out to Texas, and it was just the wrong timing. And they really got hit pretty hard, and they were just, unfortunately, they were regretting that. And I think it drilled into my mind for me just to be local, keep my eyes on things. You know, you want to see it, feel it. And then if you learn and you learn the business, then maybe you can do an out-of-state deal, or you can go buy something, you know, a couple hours away and hire an on-site manager or whatever. But then on the flip side, there's people that didn't time the market, didn't, you know, catch the wrong side of a market, that in 2010, 11, 12, 13 or whatever, they just went out and absolutely crushed it out of state. So I think timing's got a lot to do with it, you know, but it really just depends on preference. And I think I'm 10 minutes from a lot of buildings, or, you know, from the units that I have, I can get to in Costa Mesa pretty quickly. And that definitely helps in a lot of regards. I can get to things, meet with contractors. If there's any issues, I'm there. So for me, it's everything.
Awesome. That makes
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
All right, Dan, we've come to the point in the podcast where we have our guests ask us a question regarding real estate. Nothing's off the table. Anything you want. You have anything in mind you'd like to ask?
Me ask?
Yes.
Ask you?
Yeah, it can be anything.
I want to know when you're going to find me an awesome house to buy.
That's a good question. So I will give you some feedback here, Dan. What's interesting is the overall residential real estate market has decreased in activity by about between 60 and 70% over the last few weeks. So we see 60 to 70% less new listings coming on the market, which would
Okay.
benefit you. We're seeing 60 to 70% less properties going into escrow. And it feels like all those buyers and sellers are just pressing pause, and they are going to wait until the dust settles on what we're going through right now. On the backside of that, there are still deals going into escrow, and buyers who are in your situation and are actively looking are perceiving and wanting a discount in value right now. So what's interesting is 2 weeks ago, a lot of listings were being taken off the market, put on hold, canceling. I think there was the peak of uncertainty. Last week we saw a bunch of those properties come off from being held and come back to active. And we saw for the first time a few properties actually go into escrow, and a few opportunities, below market value, 5-10% become available. So I wouldn't rule out, the right situation coming to the market in the near future, but in all likelihood, we're going to see, whether it's 30, 60, 90 days from now,
Yeah.
all this built up inventory that typically comes on April, May, June, our busiest 3 months, coming. It may be a busy summer, which is typically a slower time for us around 4th of July into August. So stay tuned. It doesn't mean we've stopped looking.
Right on. What about financing? We've seen it rise almost 100 basis points. What about you?
We have not seen that change. It doesn't mean that it's not coming.
Wow.
But we have not seen that affect. What we have heard more so from the banks is they are focusing on purchase loans right now and getting those through. The refinance side of the business is definitely being put on hold or on the back burner for now. So anybody trying to get cash out or home equity line, a lot of that's just on hold right now. So I think the banks, in addition to the payment protection program, the SBA loans, they're overwhelmed. Everything's being adjusted and created on a daily basis. So the lenders, big and small, that I've spoken with over the last couple of weeks, they're just trying to keep their head above water and process a lot of the loans that they have on the books. And moving forward, that could change. And I would assume there will be some adjustments similar to what you're seeing on the investment side.
Yeah. And then what about on properties that are selling right now, single family homes that are selling and the homes are occupied? Are those selling, or is it more or less there's less of those selling and there's more homes selling that are vacant? I mean, are people?
I don't have those statistics, but I would assume vacant properties are a higher percentage of the properties going into escrow, just based on accessibility and being on the market. But the way we are showing property now, and people are doing inspections and everything, is completely adhering to the social distancing, wiping things down, gloves. We're staying out of the property and allowing buyers to go in, inspectors to go in, so that we're not messing around with anything. And all this is on top of, making sure all parties are in agreement to, showing, to inspections. And there's a CAR disclosure around COVID-19 as well, that
Mhm.
everyone's signing to make sure we're on the same page.
Right on. You're on top of it.
All right, here, Dan, this is a fun part. This is a lightning round of questions. Rapid fire. First thing that comes to mind. You ready?
Sure.
Favorite show you're binging on right now?
I have not watched TV in a long time. But if I was, I'd watch that Tiger King or whatever it's called. Is that what-
Awesome. It's pretty entertaining. Yeah, you
Yeah.
won't be disappointed.
I turned it on and then I had to turn it off because, like, you know, kids are up and they're like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Okay."
Good call.
Not
Beach
kid
or
friendly.
beach or snow?
Beach.
Awesome.
Yep.
Favorite spot for breakfast?
Plums, 17th Street.
Great call. Breakfast Republic just opened across the street. It's pretty good if you want to check it out.
Solid. Right on.
First thing you're doing after the quarantine?
Taking a vacation.
Nice. Where?
We're gonna try to do Hawaii. I mean, right now you can book some great flights, right? Like, you know, so
Yeah, love it.
phenomenal. You know, I got to get the wife and the kids and grandma too, and just we all been hunkering down and got to get them out and, you know, enjoy a little R&R outside of the house.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
What sport do you miss the most?
Sport I miss the most. Oh, I'd probably say, well, I can't really do it anymore, but I used to skateboard a lot, you know, so that kept me, I don't miss all the injuries, but it definitely kept me trim and in shape for sure. It was fun. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Steak or seafood for date night?
Both. Yeah, steak.
That's an acceptable answer. A little surf and turf.
A little surf and turf for sure. Mastros. Yeah.
Nice. They have a great takeout deal right now.
Do they?
Cook at home. Yeah, check it out.
I wonder if you can get a butter cake to go right now.
You can.
Oh, wow.
Would you rather own 150 unit property or 5 10-unit properties?
I would rather own the one. I mean, that depends, right? But all else equal, I'd rather own the 50.
Got it.
Efficiencies, one manager. Yep, for sure.
Crunchy or smooth peanut butter?
Smooth.
Smooth. Nice. Last one. Workout class or go for a jog?
I missed my workout class at the 12, you know, for sure. But it's been a jog now. So, yeah, workout class.
Awesome. I did have one more question, but it pertains to the Tiger King, and it's did Carol Baskin kill her husband? So, you know, we'll have to save that for next time.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And Dan, just want to let people know, you know, if they want to check you out, they can contact Mark and myself. They can find you online, Dan Blackwell. You know, you're a great resource. If people want to reach out and learn more information, you know, have the conversation get started, are they free to contact you and go from there?
Oh, absolutely. You know, Multifamily SoCal on Instagram, Multifamily SoCal on YouTube, or just shoot me an email at dan.blackwell@cbre.com. Happy to help.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
We really appreciate you having you on. Super informative, and wish you nothing but the best right now as we get through this, and look forward to seeing you around the neighborhood.
Right on. All right. Take care. Thanks for having me. Stay safe.
Thanks, Dan.
See ya.
You too.
Bye.